Hello everyone. How's everybody doing? Me? I had a long day saving elephants, giraffes, zebras, being compassionate to gorillas, and a couple of sloths. Yep, long day. Speaking of ethical vegans, I guess they'll be happy to find out I buried a machete in my shin the other day. And as far as that family member who just recently subbed my channel, nothing to worry about. The shin is fine. Anyway, if you have no clue what the hell I'm talking about, but you're really curious, check out my last video. Anyway, I wanted to quickly touch on this conversation that Ben Shapiro had with Sam Harris, because I'm not one-dimensional and this channel is about a lot of different topics. I guess I have a video on the carnivore diet coming up soon, hopefully sometime this week. Another one, that is. My experience, of course. But let's talk about these two Jew boys. It's okay, I could say that. My last name's Zimmerman, so nobody worry, all right? It's all good. We're in the clear. Speaking of these two Jew boys getting together and chopping it up, I thought the conversation was neutered, testosterone free, and just kind of lame and mundane. If you hadn't checked it out, you didn't miss much. But if you're interested, I'll put a link somewhere in the comments. Maybe I'll pin a comment. But anyway, the thing that often gets me about Ben Shapiro and maybe Sam Harris and maybe someone like Dave Rubin, somebody like Milo Yiannopoulos, and the rest of the kosher crew, is that they like to rag on identity politics. And even though I'm not a fan, well, is there really a political party out there that's not identitarian in one way or another? And as much as they rag on identity politics, and we'll just talk about these two here, what kind of hypocrisy is it for these two Zionist kosher crew members to be complaining about identity politics? I mean, Jesus Christ. Israel is one racist ethno-state where you could go to prison if you get a Jewish woman in bed under the pretense of being Jewish yourself, and then she finds out and reports you to the authorities, right? For example, immigration is very much frowned upon, and, well, they're just downright racist, right? So how are these two Jewish clowns, Zionist clowns, how are they going to rag on identity politics when in reality that's the game they created? The chosen people, right? With everybody else being goyim or cattle or slave or whatever the term means actually. Right? We're better than you. God chose us over everybody else. And if you disagree, we're going to scream anti-Semitism and complain about how rough we got it, right? So it was interesting to hear these two jokers talking about the hierarchy of victimhood, right? When it comes to this maybe identity politics 2.0 with their intersectionality, where, if if you're a white cisgender male, well, you better keep your mouth shut because you don't know anything about suffering, right? How are they going to complain about that while at the same time complaining about anti-Semitism, right? And how rough they had it. I mean, the hypocrisy is just out of hand, people. And it makes you wonder, are they just being disingenuous or what's going on there? Because I don't think anybody would say that Sam Harris and Ben Shapiro are stupid men, right? They're very intelligent. So are they really that oblivious that they don't recognize their own hypocrisy? Or, well, are they just full of shit? Using this low-hanging fruit SJW phenomenon to pick on in order to deflect and detract from the fact that that's exactly who they are. They're identitarian when it comes to their politics, very much so. And this comes across very clearly when both of them use various, or these two opposing, this dichotomy of atheism and theism, this tool, with obviously Sam Harris using atheism and Ben Shapiro using God, to basically rag on the Muslim, just like they rag on identity politics while being politically identitarian. They use the tools at their disposal, atheism, theism, their own respective religion, essentially, to rag on the Muslim. Very slick, but also transparent to those who are hip to the scheme. Tactics by the kosher crew. It is what it is. It's interesting, you know, and this will probably happen with this video as well, but these guys, again, will sit there and complain about people complaining about their victimhood and using that to exert power over the powerless. But it's interesting because when you actually start talking about how Zionists played a victim and used the tool of anti-Semitism to basically shut you up, like what happened to my other video talking about Israel. It's interesting that they never, ever, ever talk about that, at least not in the same context, i.e. identity politics. But be that as it may, let's move on. Another thing I had a problem with, and this is a problem I've had with Ben Shapiro for quite some time, and don't get me wrong, he's a smart guy, and there's a lot to agree with when it comes to him. But one thing that I've had a problem with him for the longest is this whole idea of Judeo-Christianity, as he calls it. Now, what the hell is Judeo-Christianity? And obviously the reason why he panders to Christians as a Jew by conflating both of these religions is to, well, hate on the Muslim once again. And I'm not saying that we should all love all Muslims. Obviously there are problems with that religion as well. But as with all religions, not all adherents to Islam are bad people, like Ben Shapiro and Sam Harris would have you believe, right? They're very extremist when it comes to the Muslim question, and dead silent when it comes to the JQ. But anyway, this idea of Judeo-Christianity, first of all, that doesn't even exist, okay? But Ben Shapiro wants you to believe that this is some kind of religion, as if the Jews didn't crucify Jesus, right? As if Jews hadn't historically been persecuted in Christian countries, as if the Bolshevik Jews didn't burn the Christian Orthodox churches to the ground once they came to power in what soon became the Soviet Union. As if the Jews and the Christians loved each other throughout history. As if all three of these religions weren't at each other's throats ever since the beginning of time, or religion, or ethics, or morals. Which leads me to my next point and the bulk of this debate between these two crooked noses. You know, this idea that they debated, and I've heard other theists and atheists debate this, but this idea of whether morals came from man or God, right? Or if people would have been able to create moral frameworks without religion, right? It's this chicken and egg question when it comes to morality. Did it come from us, or did it come from somewhere else? Was man inherently moral because of, God, or did man create morality? And perhaps God as well, right? And obviously, and this is a no-brainer, and that's why it's just so mundane. Which position Sam Harris would take and which position Ben would take. But the thing that I found interesting about Ben Shapiro debating this atheist is that when he was pushing his religious side of the story, he was avoiding eye contact, and quite frankly, he looked a little bit embarrassed, as if he wasn't fully convicted by, or committed to what it is he's pushing, right? It seemed a little bit disingenuous, but maybe I'm reading too much into his body language. There was definitely something there. Maybe I'm just misinterpreting it. But anyway, this is often the kind of tactic used to polarize people. And you could say this not only about this great theism and atheism debate, but, pro-life or pro-choice, or socialism versus capitalism, or, I don't know, you name it, debate. That's really a false dichotomy, and it just tends to polarize people, as if there wasn't a third choice, or as if there wasn't an option to just abstain, as if there wasn't an option to just be agnostic on the issue at hand, or any issue. You don't always have to take a position on every issue. But this false dichotomy between God or the lack thereof, it's just like, what? It's basically, the way I see it, is two trains on different tracks, but headed in the same direction, pretending to actually be clashing, when in reality, and I'm not talking about all theists out there at all, but these sort of Ben Shapiro types who use religion to basically bash on Islam, and Sam Harris types who use atheism, or a different form of religion, honestly, to bash on Islam. You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the greater God versus no God debate. Just in this particular context, this false dichotomy these guys painted, and maybe that's why their debate was so neutered to me, because it seemed like the goal was really something else than to get to the bottom of where morals came from. And besides, why does it have to be either this or that? Why couldn't it be a blend of both of these ideas, right? Maybe maybe there is some sort of higher power or natural law or something that dictates morality that's external to us, right? While at the same time, maybe it's also within us. And I know it sounds contradictory, but you know, maybe some people don't necessarily need God to be moral, while others who are maybe a little uncivilized, uncouth, a little bit rowdy, and generally low IQ, maybe they need the sort of cohesive glue that religion provides in order to basically function in civilization and not kill one another. You know what I mean? Maybe morality, for those of us who are conscious enough, if you will, maybe we recognize that it does come from somewhere outside of us, while people who are just a little bit animalistic and uncivilized, maybe for them, maybe they need the boot, if you will, or the constraints of organized religion to keep them in check. You know what I mean? Why can't these two ideas exist concurrently depending on how they're applied? You know what I'm saying? Maybe there is some higher power out there, but a lot of people just don't see it that way, or they have no connection to it. Maybe both of these guys are right and wrong at the same time. Or they're somewhat right while at the same time somewhat wrong. Right? Why does it always have to be either or? Why can't there be a third option? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's something I'm not seeing here. But overall, the sense that I got from the Sam Harris Ben Shapiro debate was that they just kind of, it just felt like they got together for some other reason than the one actually being discussed. And maybe it was just for views, just for clicks. I'm not sure. But ultimately, it didn't seem very genuine, as a lot of the crooked noses from the kosher crew often don't. Thank you for listening. I'm out of here.